Pete Carroll said something interesting yesterday in a press conference with Seattle. They asked him about the Niners defense, and in praising it, he said, they don't fool you. They just line up and they're running their scheme. They've got some things that they do. They pressure rarely but effectively. It's just the fact that they're so consistent at what they do. You have to beat them. You have to block them. You have to make them miss you because they're going to be in the right spots and they're going to execute really well. I thought that was kind of interesting. I mean, I don't know if he said more. Hold on. Where's the part about the exotics? Hold on. He said they're not as exotic as other teams, but they have their ways. They're going to rely on their rush to be the factor, and is kind of how they do it. So to me, it's what they're saying is like, yeah, they have a great defense, but D'Amico Ryans isn't doing anything that special over there. I mean, they just line up and play. That's what he said. Now, you could argue, why would you try to fool people if you have such a good defense? Like, keep it simple if that works, right?
That's true. I don't know. I think maybe because there's evidence that D'Amico does, mask around his defense. I just think that Pete's already seen his scheme and everything so much. That's the familiarity aspect. I think that's why there's always going to be that off chance that, again, the conditions, you've seen this team again for the third time. I think this is why, there's always that record is like, hey, when you face a team 3 times in a season, it doesn't usually work out for the team who's been winning the most, a la the Rams last year. But the Seahawks are a less talented team this year. But Pete Carroll, I think what he just sees is I think he's trying to like make his team more calm and like, hey, don't be fret that it's an elite defense. We can do this. I mean, the first game of the season, week 2, that's a wash. That wasn't us. The last game we saw against them, we lost by a score, even though it wasn't really that close. But what's also the part where he also said that, oh, unfortunately, we got to play the Niners. Like he's trying to like also lower the Niners' guard or something like that. So he's just using his word like a magician right now.
He is. I just think it's interesting. Like he's a defensive coach, and I think Seattle does try to fool you. And what's interesting, I sit pretty close to Dante Whitner in the press box, and he played for Fangio, who they were all about, not showing you what their coverage shell was going to be before the snap. So I hear him all the time in the press box being like, man, the Niners really don't disguise their coverages. And he's kind of like bemused by it because they did, and the Niners don't, and they don't have to. They don't get burned very often. And now Pete talks about it too. I mean, I guess it's something like, if you don't have to be tricky, why be tricky if you're just going to kick the shit out of everyone? I get that. But it's interesting to see someone call it out, and maybe that's why they've been giving up explosive plays down the field is when you can block this D-line, you know what you're getting down the field, and you can attack it.
Mm-hmm. And they already know where
the D-line, though.
It's literally just a two-read offense. It's like, I'm going to look at Diamoro Lenore, or I'm going to look at Talanoa Hufanga or anywhere center field. They're not going to worry about Ward, even though Ward's been picked on several times this year. But it's like, the odds of him, a receiver getting wide open like that against Ward. And then I think that's only if you have a good quarterback that can attack Ward.
You try to get Hufanga to bite on something underneath, either a play action fake or an underneath route, or you just take a shot at Diamador and throw a 50-50 ball and bank on him not making the play. That's the 2 best things you can do against the Niners.
That's pretty much like the Raiders game plan, and it works so well. It's like, all right, we're just going to pick on 2 guys all day, and we have the talent to also, so damn, it worked.
The other thing the Raiders did to stay ahead of the chains was run the hell out of the ball. They really ran the ball very well, and then also they did a good job of like dinking and dunking with pocket movement and stuff they didn't really do with Derek Carr. All of a sudden, they were getting Jared Stidham rolling out of the pocket, throwing little dump out passes to tight ends. That worked. So that's something else. Get your quarterback away from Nick Bosa. Get him out of the pocket. That's as much as possible against the 49ers. That's a good thing.
They use an element of like the Chiefs game plan. Like it's like, to me, it's like I know you and others are still harping on mobile quarterbacks, and it's like, yeah, I'll always forever be like mobile quarterbacks always hurt defenses. But to me, it's like number one, obviously the pass defense going deep, and then using and what the Chiefs did, using their aggressiveness against them, because I don't think that they want their D line like. I think they just tell their D line just go attack and just go relentless, and I think that's what makes them being a top sack team, and it works. And I guess at that point they just live with they just live with that weakness of like, all right, if they're going to screen us, then linebackers, everyone else come up, which it doesn't work well if they don't get the tackles, which that's right. They didn't do that against the Chiefs, and they did it better against the Raiders, but the Raiders were still gashing them in that way. But I'm not worried about a screen game from Seattle. I don't think Seattle runs too many screens in, and when they do it to like DJ Dallas, which when he comes in, it's pretty much easy to be like, alert, alert. We know he's going to come in because it's too predictable. They don't do that with Kenneth Walker.
There's a reason that Russell Wilson was 17-4 in his career against the Niners. And I know the Seahawks can't stand Russell Wilson. Yeah, like I get that their team culture is way better without him there, but Geno needs to look at what Russell Wilson would do against the Niners and try to do that stuff, because he was too timid the last few games. And you need to be scrambling. You got to scramble, and you got to get out of the pocket and throw down the field. And Russell Wilson would do that relentlessly and feel like, if I just do this enough, I'll have a few big plays. The game will be close. I'll win. And it almost always worked for him. And that's the best chance you have against the Niners. Keep it close, take shots, and live with the results. Don't. It's like in basketball. The Niners are better than you. So what you got to do is shoot 43s, okay? It may not work, but it might. If you're just going to play a slow pace game and match them in the post, and get out of here. You got to shoot 43s and hope that you're hot that night. That's what the Seahawks have to do. 43s.
That probably is going to be the best chance. I think if I'm going to defend Geno on his 2 starts against the Niners, one was week 2. It was early in the season. He was still getting his bearings. True. And they're coming off that massive high over against, revenge against Russell Wilson. And then the second one at home, prime time against a really good opponent with the division on the line. It's like
Thursday. And it was Thursday. So
which is why it's incredible that Brock Purdy played just as well as he did, considering his oblique was freaking bruised and everything. So, it's tip of the cap. Some players are meant for it, some players aren't. That's why I'm not too worried about
And the Niners defense looks vulnerable right now. It's just shown a bunch of things that they've just gotten exposed the last 3 weeks in a bunch of different ways. The Seahawks can look at that and be like, Geno, can you do what Jarrett Stidham did? Can you do that? Oh, okay. So maybe the Niners should go a little off tendency. Maybe disguise your coverages for a change. Maybe bring a little more pressure for a change. I'm just saying. Because honestly, if it's one of these games like against the Raiders where you don't have pressure and you don't sack Geno's, if they don't sack Geno Smith, they could lose. If you sack him, you win. If you don't sack him, you could lose. So don't just hang back and be like, well, if Nick Bosa gets there, then we win. If not, well, it wasn't our game. No, you can generate pressure if you have to.
They're generating pressure good against him on Thursday night. And I also wonder, we're talking about Brock Purdy against playoff pressure. And after talking about that Thursday night game, it's like, Geno Smith's going to face some pressure too. He's never been in a moment like this.
No.
Is he going to crack? I probably bet more that he's going to crack than Brock Purdy, to be honest.
That's a good point. It just feels like there's no pressure on Seattle. It just feels like there's no pressure on Seattle. Not supposed to be there. If they lose, no one cares. If the Niners lose, if it's even a close game, people are going to be like, what?
No, people are going to be like, oh, I was against a division opponent 3 times in a year. Rain, fine. That's really what's going to be the first thing. I'm going to probably join that too, to be honest.
Maybe. We'll see. Depends how it shakes out. Keith Murphy says NFC East played AFC North and NFC South this year. It's why all 4 teams almost made the playoffs. I don't think the NFC East will be formidable. Possible. I see what you mean. We'll see.
Eagles
that's next year. Sean O'Leary says, just joining, so apologies if repeating. I don't think you can take much from a Thursday road game where Purdy was playing through pain. Short week, injury, tough environment, etc. I think this game is over by the end of the third quarter.
No, you definitely can take much from that. That means the guy has moxie. The guy's so tough. I think that was the game that put the nail in the coffin for me. That said, all right, Purdy's the truth. The guy, the mentality, that toughness, that's something the Niners have not seen in a long time.
But again, if it's raining hard and Pete Carroll is on his best, it's his 3rd time facing this offense. This could be a low-scoring game. I'm not sure that the game will be over by the end of the 3rd quarter. Maybe it will be. I don't know.
I think the concern here, if I'm gonna piggyback off what you're saying, is I think what's gonna literally limit Brock Purdy is if it's raining as hard as we're thinking, like Colts game, if it's like that, that's gonna make the ball heavier. And that's going to be harder to drive through on a wet field. Maybe it might be soggy. I know they do a good thing about that, but it's going to be hard to drive it. He's going to probably throw a more pickable ball because it's not like he has that great velocity if he's going 10-plus yards deep anyways.
To pierce it through the elements? No. They say certain quarterbacks can throw a football through a car wash and it won't get wet. Yep. Purdy's ball will be sopping wet coming out of that.
Yeah. Wentz can do it because he had an arm, true arm.
Yeah. True. Lance could do it, but he's on a knee scooter. Jerry Moore says, I read an article that they were calling him Big Star Brock in the locker room because the way he carries himself. They call him Big Star Brock. That's amazing. That doesn't really have a ring to it, though, I don't think.
That's from the captain jersey.
Got it.
They already gave it to him.
That makes sense.